financial accountancy's part, like the different accounting standards we are using. While discussing the same, one thing keep in your mind, because whatever the syllabus is provided to you as well as to me for your pre-PhD course, in that certain things are mentioned which are not applicable right now. For example, I'm just discussing a very small part. As we have in our syllabus is accounting standard 6. You can see in your syllabus which is provided to you. Accounting standard 6 deals with the depreciation accounting. It was related to depreciation accounting, the different methods we have to opt, and what were the different assets on which the depreciation was to be charged. And then we have another accounting standard, that is accounting standard number 10. This accounting standard deals with accounting for but in the present state of mind, present situation, this depreciation accounting standard number 6, this accounting standard has been withdrawn. It's no more applicable. Withdrawn from financial year 2016 and 17. It has been already withdrawn. It's not applicable the way it was given in the accounting standard 6. And in accounting standard 10, we have to talk about the fixed assets, what is the cost of their capitalization, how we capitalize the assets we have purchased and all that. But in the present scenario, this accounting standard has been converted and revised as accounting standard 10. Please mute yourself. There are a lot of disturbance coming from your background. So revised accounting standard 10 is what? It deals with PPE. It stands for property, plant and equipment. Property, plant and equipment. When in present scenario you go for this accounting standard number 10, it is a revised one, then you will find that even the depreciation part has been covered by this standard. So these two sections or these two जो हैं आपके accounting standard हैं, they are merged into the third accounting standard after the revision, property, plant and equipment. But as per your syllabus, it is given, even I know that this is no more applicable. You people also have an idea that this is no more applicable, but still as per the instructions, we have to deal with these two. And in the end, I will come to this also. I will explain it to you also. So there will be no difference कि आप लोगों ने ये पुराना पढ़ा तो नए में what has been introduced, you have no idea. So I will give you an idea of all the three, and then we have the accounting standard 4, which is still applicable. That is regarding the contingencies and the other events if they occur or they take place after the balance sheet has been prepared, or there are certain changes in the accounting policies. Or you can say that there are certain contingencies that occur after the preparation of the balance sheet. This is also a revised one, and that is accounting standard 4. I think I made clear what we are going to discuss today. We first discussed accounting standard 6, which is now not applicable with effect from 2016 and 17. Then we go for the provisions of accounting standard 10, which actually in the past usually deals with the fixed assets. But now these both have been clubbed in the heading accounting standard 10, named property, plant and equipment. If I am clear to all of you, just show me your thumbs up that you got the idea what I have to tell you.
Yes, ma'am, clear.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am, clear.
Thank you. So,
yes, ma'am, clear.
Okay, Bacha. Thank you so much. So first we start with the concept of fixed assets, right? So we are dealing with accounting standard 10. Which explains assets, that to which we define in the terminology of fixed assets. As per this accounting standard, which has already been inculcated in the other one, what we have to take, if I say we are talking about fixed assets. So the first thing is, what are the fixed assets? From journal point of view, these are the assets which are acquired by the business, right? They are under the ownership of the business and purchased with the purpose to be kept for long duration. Assets to be used in business for long term. Means we are not planning to dispose them after some time. So the long term usability is there. Second point that has to be cleared in this one, that fixed assets are those assets which are used for production. In the normal course of business, they are used for production and services directly. Only then they will fall under the heading of fixed assets. If we have purchased any asset which can be disposed of in the next year, it will come to an end, then that will not covered by the accounting standard 10. Now, for these two amounts, we have to go for the capitalization, because fixed assets are shown as assets of the business on the asset side of the balance sheet. So for fixed assets, we have to go for one thing which is known as capitalization. Capitalization in itself is a very wider term, but for accounts, we have to keep in mind what capitalization of fixed assets we are talking about. For fixed assets, what we have to consider is directly related with the principle of materiality. It should have a materialistic impact on the business. Materialistic impact means it will add to your assets. When in future we are going to charge depreciation on it, that will also be shown as an expenses in the profit and loss account. So it should have certain impact. But if it is insignificant, or we can say it is a very small amount. If it is a small amount, then we are not going to consider it as a part of capitalization. We are not going to include it into the fixed assets. For example, if we get our machinery repaired, repairs are the expenses which are to be incurred to add to the productivity of the machinery. But that repair is not a capitalized amount. Reason is very simple. It is not a very important part for that machinery to be carried forward. But if we are using certain spares which are must for the working of that machinery, only then we are going to capitalize them. Otherwise, we are not going to capitalize. Am I clear up to this topic? What we have to capitalize or what we don't have to capitalize?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
bacha. Then is when we are going to capitalize anything, what is the thing we are using? We are using only those expenses, only things up to the final installation of the machine. Machine है जो भी आपका plant है, before installation or before actually use. Unless or until it is not being used for production purpose, we are not going to capitalize the expenses. We will capitalize only those expenses which are incurred before the production of anything with the use of that particular asset. Fine. After this, what is this standard? It was not applicable on certain situations. Now I'm mentioning those situations. If I'm clear with all this, I'm moving with that. There are certain situations, or we can say there are certain exceptions, where the concept of fixed assets is not applicable as per this accounting standard. वो special conditions क्या हैं? The condition number 1 is if we are talking about forests, right, and we are talking about the plantation, or we talk about some natural resources.
Arjun here.
When we talk about all these things, these three things are those which are not our assets. Reason is very clear. If we talk about forest, it is a natural availability to us, right? Natural resources are given by the God or by nature, and plantation also sometime occur, sometime won't occur. We cannot consider them as fixed assets. So this was not applicable on the three terms I have explained. Number two, even we cannot consider something as a fixed asset if it is an expenses or expenditure incurred on. This is important. If the expenditure is incurred on what? On the development of real estate. If we are developing a real estate as a businessman, then the development expenses, whatever we have incurred in the colonization or the real estate establishment, that will not be taken as to be the fixed assets of the business. This was the second exemption, or this is the second exception, which is not to be considered as a real asset. Then, number three, this is simply a livestock. Livestock or such assets which are related to the livestock, they will also not be taken into the consideration for the definition of fixed asset as per the old accounting standard 10. Right? So these are the exceptions. We are not going to deal with them. When we talk about fixed assets, we have one more accounting standard which was related to it. That was accounting standard 6. Which we just discussed. That accounting standard was related to the depreciation accounting, no more applicable after 2016 and 17. But before that, it was applicable. So this section 6 was applicable only on the assets which are defined by the accounting standard 10. जो assets इसने define नहीं की, उस पे accounting standard 6 की applicability भी नहीं थी. It was not applicable on those things. So this is how the accounting standard 10 is working for the present situation. Now, I have told you people that it is a capitalization of certain things. That capitalization includes many things in itself. What we have to calculate as a value of asset, or what we will consider as a value of asset, it has certain ingredients, or you can say certain elements are to be considered. So the cost of fixed asset. This is the next topic. What is the cost of fixed asset? Number one, price. Whatever asset you have purchased, uska whatever the price paid for purchase, that is to be taken into account. Purchase price has to be considered. Number two, any kind of duties, taxes, custom duties, whatever you have paid, but keep in this mind that should be the non-refundable one. They cannot be taken back. They are non-refundable. That non-refundable taxes and duties has to be added in the basic price of the asset. Then any direct cost incurred. When we talk about direct cost incurred, we talk about the expenses for bringing asset into working. Like installation charges, installation expenses. We are incurring it so that the machine can be used or machine can be brought to the working condition. So this is to be added. This is the third. Then even the installation, the various installation expenses incurred to put the machine into use will also be added into the price of the machinery for the computation of the cost of fixed asset. Then, number 5, if you have paid any kind of professional fees, that professional fees is like to architect, right? Who is giving you the design and the other thing, where to put the machine, how the layout will work. If you are paying any kind of professional fees, that is also to be added in the cost. professional fees. I'm using the term fees. Then simple other overheads. Other overheads related to the machinery, right? Which are related for the running of the machinery, that is to be included in the same. Then any other expense before the machine or asset actually put to use. This is the list of 7 different elements which we have to add into the price of the machine or the asset, whatever we have acquired, to compute the cost of the fixed assets. Clear?
Yes,
Is it
ma'am.
clear?
मैम पॉइंट नंबर 4 क्लियर नहीं विजिबल है, आप प्लीज इसको बता दीजिए.
Sure. Number 4 is bacha installation expenses. That when the machine is going to be installed in a factory, or we are going to install the proper plant at the place where we want to run the factory, that expenses are installation expenses.
Ma'am, can you explain the 5th point once again?
It's professional fees.
Yes, ma'am.
Professional fees. If we have certain kind of designing used, or we have certain drafting to be done, how the plant is to be laid out or how the machine has to be used, if we paid any kind of professional fees to the architect actually, right? The one who is making the layout for you, preparing the layout for you. Whatever fees we pay, that will also be included in the cost of the fixed assets for the computation purposes.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Anything else? If these 7 things are to be added, there are certain things which are not to be included. So now we are talking about the second part of the cost of fixed assets, when the following things are not to be included. Or we can say they have to be deducted from, ठीक है, ये आपकी वो कॉस्ट है जो डिडक्ट करोगे, आप ऐड नहीं करोगे. The other one, the 7 we have mentioned has to be added into the price, but these are to be deducted from the price. Number 1, any trade discount. If we have purchased an asset and the other company has given us certain discount in the form of trade, so that trade discount or any rebate given by the supplier, that is not to be considered as the part of the cost. Number 1. Number 2, sale proceeds, or we can say whatever have we paid just for test run. Sale proceeds of test run production. Mean we used the machine for the first time and we took a test of the same to produce certain product. If the product has been sold in the market, even that sale proceeds is required to be deducted from the fixed cost of a machinery, because that is the revenue generated by the company from that particular asset. Number 3.
Yes, ma'am.
Amount of any kind of amount of government subsidies. If your local government or the central government or the state government is providing any kind of subsidies, right? This we can study from accounting standard 12. What type of subsidies government are providing on the different fixed assets? This will be explained in the accounting standard 12. If it is provided, then for that government grant, we have to deduct it out of the cost of the fixed assets. And fourth one is, the fourth point we have to deduct is gain. This is the gain or the profit on deferred payment. Gain or profit on the deferred payment which we have paid out of foreign currency. We paid out of foreign currency liability. Mean due to the fluctuation in the foreign exchange, whatever the benefit we derived due to the less payment in comparison to what we have actually paid, that difference has to be deducted from the cost of the fixed assets. So we have to add 7 points to compute the cost, and we have to deduct 4 points to compute the or to reach the actual figure of cost of fixed assets. Any question up to here?
No.
No. So we will be moving for different cases. Now we have small caselets or the different cases where we can see what is the actual cost of acquisition we are going to use in that particular scenario. Number one, first situation or the first case is if the asset, I'm talking about only fixed assets. If the fixed asset is acquired, this acquisition is important, is acquired in exchange. Money is okay, but we are going to exchange for another asset. Mean barter system. Or we are exchanging the asset for asset. Replacement. Changing the old one, buying the new one. Then cost of fixed asset. In this case, the cost of fixed asset will be market price. First we have to consider market price, or either it will be a market price or net book value. Net book value. Right? Net book value of the asset given in exchange. Given in exchange. If this is given, we consider it. Otherwise, whatever the market price is applicable for that particular asset, that is to be considered as the cost of the fixed asset. This was the first case. If we are exchanging assets for the new ones. Number two, what if the assets are self-constructed? In second case, we are going to discuss second is when assets are self-constructed. Mean we haven't purchased it from the open market. It's not available in the open market, but rather we have created it ourselves. So they are termed as to be the self-constructed assets. In such case, if the self-constructed assets has been considered, or we are talking about, in that case, what will be the cost? Cost of such assets will be the following. Number one, any direct cost attributable to asset, which we can directly incur for that asset creation. That is to be considered, right? That is the main part. Second one is any other common cost, or expenses incurred for the construction, right? Or allocation. Expenses incurred for proper allocation and construction of such asset. That is to be taken. Number three, we have created this asset ourselves. Then, if there is any, it's not possible, it will be always be there. If any kind of internal profit is there. If you have created or earned any kind of internal profit, right? It should not be included in the asset. If an internal profit is there, don't include, or if it is already included, then deduct it for computation of cost of asset. Then it is to be deducted for the computation of cost of asset. Is it clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Then the third heading is fixed assets acquired in exchange. Not the first one. In exchange of other asset is not there. In exchange for shares, we are talking about the securities. Shares, or we can say other securities. We are not paying the price in cash. The consideration is not made in cash, but we made the consideration in form of the shares or the other securities to the other party. Then fair market value this fair market value is of asset, the one we have acquired. Fair market value of asset acquired, if it is available in the market, that we have to take it into the account, or the value of securities provided, or the value of securities provided, whichever is more. Whichever is more. That is to be taken as a cost of acquisition or the cost of purchase. It's very clear, if you purchased an asset from anyone which actually cost for 10 lakh rupees, that's okay. That is a fair market value. But in actually you are paying that person not 10 lakh rupees in cash, but you are paying that person in the form of shares or the other securities whose actual market value in the present situation is 12 lakh. So whatever is higher, this 12 lakh rupees will be considered as the cost of asset acquired rather than the 10 lakh rupees, which is the actual fair market of the asset. Shalini, is it visible now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now the next case. If we talk about hire purchase transactions, or we talk about hire purchase assets, next heading is hire purchase transactions or hire purchase goods purchase. कोई भी asset हो, green तो will not be visible at all. Just wait a second. Give me a second. Talking about hire purchase transaction. If it is a hire purchase transaction, then the cost of asset will be the cash price. The cash price paid on such machine will be considered as the cost of the acquisition or the cost of the machine. These are the different 4 cases when what is the cost of acquisition varies from case to case. Otherwise, the simple formulation of computation of the same we have already discussed, in which we have to add 7 items and we have to deduct 4 items. Now moving ahead, there are many things which are directly, indirectly related with the fixed asset. For example, the very important factor that is always having an impact on the fixed assets is revaluation. The important factor that is concerned with fixed assets is the revaluation. What if these assets are revalued in the market and we have to show the same? Then what we have to do, rather than showing the value of assets as per the market value in our books of account, what companies are usually doing, companies are using subsequently another way that is called a revaluation of fixed assets. Companies are using revaluation of fixed assets and restricted it to net realizable value. What I want to say in this, let we have a plant which is actually available with us at our historical cost for 5 lakh rupees. And when we are going for the revaluation of the same plant, we found that the market price of that product is gone up to 6 lakh rupees. That's okay. But this 1 lakh difference, now we have to find out, will we be able to get that 6 lakh rupees in the market or not? If not, then we have to reevaluate the entire class of that asset in such a way that it is a systematic revaluation. Mean we are not going to sell it for 6 lakh. It's not possible. It may be sold in the market for 5,50,000, or we can just get 4 lakh out of it. So we have to consider the net realizable value, not the exact what is given in the market price. So that basis we have to disclose in our accounting policy if we are going to reevaluate our fixed assets, what price we have actually used to show the books in the books of account. What is the value of asset that can be attained from the use of that particular asset in the open market. Another factor that affects the assets or the fixed assets is their maintenance. Now, the next heading we are going to read is repair and maintenance of fixed assets. Repairs and maintenance of fixed assets. When we talk about repairs and maintenance, you know it very well that whenever the fixed assets are required, we know that from time to time they need certain kind of repair for their increasing their useful life, or sometimes we also have to maintain them for maintaining their productivity. Maybe not the capitalized expenses, but these expenses have to be taken into account depending upon certain situation. If I say, number one, what I'm saying is very important to note it down, that how the assets will be treated in the books of account. First one is, if expenses are incurred these expenses are incurred to make any kind of improvement you want to make changes in the asset or to add to the capacity, add to the capacity of asset, or it will add to the capacity of asset. So it means it is to be included in the book value, meaning it has to be capitalized. It has to be included in the book value of the asset. Means I'm saying these expenses are required to be capitalized by the business unit. आप जब अपनी asset show करोगे balance sheet में, then you will add all these expenses because they are just incurred for the basic two purposes, either to enhance the capacity or to add to the capability of that asset if the improvement is made. Number 2, if expenses are of routine nature, mean you need the oiling of the machine, we just need an overhauling of the machine, some simple repair is to be required, certain things has to be changed, then it is not going to make any improvement in the asset. So then these are our revenue expenditure. It will be treated as our revenue expenses shown in profit and loss account. Then you will show under the heading repair and maintenance on the debit side of P&L account. So this is what repair and maintenance treatment will be there when we are talking about the fixed assets. Clear? When it is to be capitalized, when it is not to be capitalized.
Yes, ma'am.
So because this is no more applicable nowadays, so whatever the journal entries or the treatment of the revaluation we used to do in that accounting standard, we are not going to discuss that, right? So last thing which is important left in this accounting standard is disposal of that asset, or I can say retirement of asset. Disposal of asset or the retirement of asset. That can also take place. Then once it is disposed of, it will be removed from the financial statements also. It will have no more existence, right? If it is not expected to be used, then we can have removal of the asset from the asset list. Then it will not be shown in the books of account, right? This is the last part of the assets treatment under accounting standard 10. Now related to the same, the old standard, which we are going to discuss is accounting standard 6 related to the depreciation accounting, because we just started the fixed assets and depreciation is directly conferred or related with this part. Accounting standard 6, depreciation accounting. Depreciation accounting. Very simple. Depreciation is what? Wear and tear in the value due to time, or we can say due to the usage, continuous usage. Whatever take place, the fall in the value, that is called depreciation. Due to this depreciation, after the passage of particular time, that machine can also become obsolete. They can become obsolete for us. So, fixed assets, we know that fixed asset has one nature in it, which is there, that they have certain kind of useful life in it. And on the basis of that useful life, we decide the depreciation. And this accounting standard was applicable in all type of enterprises which we discussed yesterday, but it was applicable only till 2016 and 17, not in a present situation. So what we are studying is just we are studying the past of it. Now it has been withdrawn. आप ये mention कर सकते हो अपने उसमें. It has been withdrawn, but still we are putting up certain things. What is there important in it? Now, accounting standard 6 says what? Depreciation is very clear to all of us, being the commerce student, that depreciation is the wear and tear in the value of the assets in one way or the other. But there are certain assets which are not covered by the depreciation at that time also. The following, we are going to make a list. That list says that depreciation is not applicable. For example, we talked about forest. Remember, it was not included even in the definition of fixed assets. So all those things which were not there in the fixed asset definition of fixed assets, they will also not be covered by the depreciation. Along with that, even goodwill is not a part of depreciation, because goodwill is not going to depreciate from passage of time from 1 year to another year. The reputation of a business which keep on increasing. So there is not a word depreciation, we can use the word amortization. So it depending upon that, and even the expenses which we are incurring on research and development of our products or other goods and services, even those expenses are not counted for depreciation purpose. So assets which are not defined as a fixed assets, they will not come under the purview of depreciation. Along with that, any other thing which we have incurred in the terms of research and development, that will not be included. Even the goodwill is not considered. Value of livestock will not be taken, and land is also not considered. You must have studied that land is not going to depreciate. Land is the thing which always go for appreciation, unless or until the lifespan of the land is defined, predefined. This land can be used only for 2 or 3 years, not after that. Then we can say it has a depreciation. Otherwise, if the such things are not has been defined in the land case, then we are not going to depreciate the land. This is just the basic part. So now what the depreciation is, that you people know better, right? What depreciation is, what is the concept of depreciation. So we are just moving what methods this section or this standard has defined. Methods of depreciation, not those we have studied that there are so many methods of depreciation we are charging under which, but it has approved only 2 methods of depreciation. One is SLM, that is straight line method, and second is WDB. WDB stands for written down value method. Straight line method. Very clear from the name that the depreciation will remain same. We just divide the asset with the lifespan of the asset. Whatever amount we get, that is a fixed amount, we keep on charging the asset. Okay. Do you think in practical this method should be used? Is this method should be applicable in practical life? It means if we are saying that at the end of the life, the asset has 0 value. Do you think this 0 has any relevance? Or we can say,
No,
there
ma'am.
is no such asset.
No, ma'am.
Yeah.
No, ma'am, just we use written down value method.
We have something. We have residual value,
Scrap
or we can
value.
say scrap value, right?
Yes,
So
ma'am.
there is no asset which can be converted exactly into 0. So the other method proposed is written down value method. It says as the year progresses, the depreciation will keep on moving. Mean the depreciation is keep on decreasing with the decrease in the value of the asset, but no asset will be converted into 0. Right? Now it depends upon the company, it depends upon the business or the entity that which method they are going to adopt. But as per rule, India made Income Tax Act 1961. They have given an approval of written down value method to charge depreciation to be shown on the P&L account, right? So this is what income tax said, but the accounting standards say you can use either of the 2 methods or you can use both the methods simultaneously. But in your accounts but in your accounting books or in the accounting statement, what do you have to define? If what method we have actually opted for the depreciation of particular asset. Is it clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, when we go for the disclosure part of this, if we have to go with these depreciation amounts or these are the method, then what we have to disclose in our financial statements that include 5 different things. Number one, the assets has to be shown the historical cost. We will apply the historical cost to show the value of the asset in our books. Number two, total depreciation has to be shown. Accumulated depreciation for the full year is to be shown in the books of account, and that is to be deducted from the value of the asset. Number three, depreciation method. What accounting policy the business has opted to charge a depreciation? Whether we are going for SLM, straight line method, or we are going for written down value method, and why? That we have to disclose in our accounting policy. And then last is the depreciation rate. As per income tax rules, the rates has been predefined. How much rate is used? Like plant and machinery 25%, computer and other things has to be charged at 60% depending upon the different assets nature. So what rate company has applied, the company has to show the statement that what are the rate it has actually used for the depreciation purpose. These were the two accounting standards. Now they are merged. Am I clear with both the standard? What was the past? Accounting standard 6, depreciation, and accounting standard 10, fixed assets.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
now, any question, any query from anyone?
No, ma'am.
No. Shall we move to the next?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
I will tell you very small portion of accounting standard 10 which has been introduced in the later situation because it's not your syllabus. I'm just giving you as an idea. What is it? Now, in the present situation, if you find, you will go for accounting standard 10. It is no more dealt with the fixed assets. It will show 3P, 2PE, PPE, it will show that is property, plant, and equipment. Accounting for these 3 things. Accounting standard, which is based only on plant, then property and equipment. What this standard says? Number 1, we talk about its application. This accounting standard is treating these things as an asset of the business, which is to be taken into account by all kind of enterprises. But how we recognize the asset? The main question arises with the recognition of asset. Means, why we treat them an asset? Number 1, applicability, it is applicable to all the institutions. Number 2, when we calculate the cost of the asset, what it includes? Mean an asset is considered, anything can be considered as an asset only if there are situations or there are equations. Number 1, the future economic benefits, future economic benefits mean the benefits that we can derive in the long term from that asset should be to the business entity. They are related only to the business. It should be related to the business entity. Number 2, cost can be easily measurable. You know the cost of the thing. Only then you can treat it as a property, plant and equipment for the purpose of accounting standard 10. Now what this cost is? here the cost of asset, as we have discussed in the fixed assets also, here we also have cost of assets in which we include only two parts of the cost are there. Number one, initial cost. Initial cost is the cost that we have incurred for the acquisition of asset, that is to be considered. Number two is subsequent cost. We have subsequent cost. Mean these are the item which this is the cost which is incurred to add to the capacity or to add to the improvement of that very asset. Only then it will be added. If these two will be added, it will become the cost of asset. Is it clear?
मैम ये सब्सिक्वेंट कॉस्ट थोड़ा क्लियर कर दीजिए.
Sure. Mean we have purchased an asset, we have acquired an asset on which we have paid certain expenses, which are the basic expenses till the installation. After installing that machine, if we incur any kind of expenses to add to the capacity of the machine or to make the improvement in the machine, that is termed as the subsequent cost. Am I clear?
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Welcome. So we have different methods of computation. The measurement of cost कैसे होती है? That sometimes we apply cost model, sometimes we apply revaluation model. As we had discussed in the fixed assets also, we usually calculate the cost of asset using the two methods. One is the cost model, another is the revaluation model. But it has the same explanation as we have discussed under the heading of accounting standard 10, which is relating to the fixed asset in the past. So there is no change in it. Now the other part which has been added into it in this new accounting standard is depreciation. We studied two separate accounting standards. Now this accounting standard has one part in the name of or title depreciation. Same, no change. It is just because of the use of the asset or with the passage of time, whatever the value decreased in the or there is a fall in the value of the fixed asset, that is termed as depreciation. But now it is not charged under the accounting standard 6 anymore. So when we are talking about depreciation, one thing is there that we have to explain the period of depreciation. Period of depreciation means it is the time slot in which we have used the asset till the disposal. Mean it is the total amount we charge on any asset till its disposal or retirement. Whatever amount we have charged, that is whole amount or in deduction is known as to be the depreciation. Mean from the day asset purchase till the day asset sold off. Whatever amount is charged, that is there. Now it has again explained the depreciation methods. We have still the same depreciation method. The first one is the straight line method, right? SLM, in which we will be charging the same depreciation over the span of the asset. This is the first. Number two was the same, written down value, that it keep on decreasing with the decrease in the value. But in this standard, one more method of depreciation has been introduced. We are not now dealing only with the two methods. We have one more method of charging of depreciation, and that method is known as units of. Is it visible?
Yes, ma'am.
Units of production method. Units of production method. This is the third method introduced.
मैम एन्युटी मेथड भी इसी में आता है.
Yes, ma'am, annuity method भी तो होता है.
आप अकाउंटिंग स्टैंडर्ड में जब पढ़ते हो तो उसमें मेथड प्री डिफाइंड है कि वी आर यूजिंग दीज थ्री मेथड. लेकिन इन रियल लाइफ व्हेन वी यूज, हम लोग तो सम ऑफ एडिशन भी यूज करते हैं, एनुटी मेथड यूज करते हैं, राइट? इवन वी यूज डेप्रिसिएशन फंड मेथड आल्सो. सो वी हैव डिफरेंट मेथड्स इन अकाउंटिंग, बट एज पर अकाउंटिंग स्टैंडर्ड, accounting standard says कि these are the three methods which is approved by them. You can use any of them to bring the uniformity in the books of account.
Okay, ma'am.
We are not going to apply the other methods. We are going to apply the methods which has been appraised or which has been given by the standard is accounting standard board. They have provided us with the three methods. Shall we continue?
Sure.
Yes, ma'am.
So according to the third method, units of production method, the depreciation will be calculated or charged as per the number of units produced by the asset. We know that this asset can be used for 5 to 6 years, and in its whole span it will produce 10 lakh units. So what we will do, we will calculate the total cost and divide the same, or we can say in other words, simple way, the value of asset is nothing, but it is the value of units it is going to produce in future. Directly related with the production. जितने production के unit होंगे, that will be the amount of depreciation under it. मैंने तुम लोगों को सिर्फ एक crux provide किया है, just provided you people with the crux कि what accounting standard 10 is nowadays, rather than what we are studying in the past. Got an idea? Revised one?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Anything you want to ask out of it? Or we can move to the next standard?
मैम आज इतना ही रख दीजिए, भूख लगी है.
Okay.
इसका नाम रहता ना पूरा बजट नया लिखे नरेश लोगों का.
हाँ मैम, टाइम भी नहीं मिलता, खाना भी नहीं खाया है.
Okay. As you guys, I have no objection. I have no.
हम कल की क्लास में कवर कर लेंगे.
Okay, fine enough. Because I'm not answerable, you people have to answer the teachers. Okay. I'm
Okay. Okay, ma'am.
not. Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining. Thank
you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
थैंक यू मैम.
Thank you.
Bye, ma'am.
मेरे पास भी नहीं है. आ गया.
क्या मिथिलेश
अब ये पेपर सब अपने संभाल के हम लोग
बोलिए
कुछ पूछेंगे, बता दें.
क्या चाहते हैं?
ओवर हो गया क्या क्लास?
हाँ ओवर हो गया.
थोड़ी जल्दी.
क्या भाई लोग, क्या चल रहा है?
बदलवा दो यार बच्चों.
सबका मिल जाएगा मोबाइल नंबर.
लाओ तो फिर ग्रुप बना देंगे व्हाट्सएप पे.
वहां से कर लूंगा ना, जहां से उनका पूरा वो
हेड ऑफिस वाले पोर्टल से
सेव करना पड़ा सब. इसको लगेगा ना, लगा दूंगा. इसी वाला जैसे डाउनलोड नहीं है प्रिंटर ना, तब तो ले लेंगे. सेव मांग रहा है तो इसको तो लगाऊंगा. तो
ठीक ठीक.
ऐसा भी चैनल
ऑनलाइन वाली चलेगी वो वहां पे लगवाओगे ना लैपटॉप. ये लैपटॉप में यूज यहाँ. हाँ
ये लैपटॉप में इंस्टॉल प्रिंटर रखा हुआ है, उसकी बात
इंस्टॉल कर लो ना.
तो मतलब इंस्टॉल और उसका ना इसमें है, वो नहीं है, हो जाएगा अपने.
हाँ हो जाएगा, वो ऑनलाइन कर लेना. ठीक है, नहीं तो कल दे देना, हम देख लेते हैं, कर देंगे हम.
इसका हमको पता है लिखा है या नहीं आएगा, कर नहीं पा रहे हैं.
हाँ हाँ. दिलीप सर नमस्कार. अरे अनम्यूट करिए आप तो एकदम
ये बैटरी खत्म हो गई है।